The safety protection settings of the aircraft are also an important part of our safety operation specifications. Setting reasonable safety protection parameters in advance can greatly reduce the risk factor. Open the Plant Protection Assistant app, enter the job interface, click on the extension bar in the upper right corner, select the aircraft status in the equipment bar, and we can see the safety protection settings, and click to enter. We can see the low battery protection settings for the power battery, and the remote control loss protection settings. We divide the low battery protection into two levels. For the first level protection, we set the battery to 30%, and for the second level protection, we set 20%. For each level protection, we can set corresponding trigger actions. Here, we can choose the following 4 actions: alarm, hover, landing after 10 seconds, and return after 10 seconds. The alarm indicates that the aircraft will continue to maintain its current flight status without interruption, but there will be a red light prompt on the aircraft and a prompt on the remote control. At this time, the remote control can control the aircraft. Hovering means that after the aircraft triggers protection, it will immediately interrupt the current flight state and the aircraft will hover in place. At this time, the remote control can control the aircraft. Landing, after 10 seconds, is when the aircraft automatically lands after triggering the protective power of 10S, and the aircraft can be controlled by the remote control at this time. Return flight, after 10 seconds, is when the aircraft automatically returns after triggering the protection battery of 10S. At this time, the aircraft can also be controlled by the remote control. Usually, when the battery has 30% remaining power, the protection action is generally set as an alarm. At this time, the battery is about to lose power. We should operate the aircraft safely as soon as possible to avoid over-discharge of the battery or not enough time to drop to the appropriate takeoff and landing point. When the battery has 20% remaining power, the protection action is generally set as a landing. At this time, the battery has lost power and cannot support safe return. In order to avoid over-discharge of the battery or flight explosion, the aircraft will slowly land after 10 seconds of triggering. At this time, if the landing point is not suitable, we can manually control and land the aircraft in the appropriate position. When the remote control signal is interrupted, the remote control will trigger the loss of contact protection, usually with 4 protection actions: hovering, returning, intelligent, and landing. Hovering means that when the remote control loses contact, the aircraft will immediately interrupt the current flight status and hover in place until the signal is restored before control. It is generally recommended to set it to hover. When the remote control goes missing, the plane will immediately interrupt the current flight status and return immediately. Intelligence is only applicable when the aircraft operates autonomously. After the loss of contact, the aircraft will maintain its current operating state and will not change until the next action is triggered, such as triggering the discontinuation of medication or other protective actions. However, when flying manually in GPS mode, if there is a loss of contact, the aircraft will immediately hover. When setting up a lost contact landing, the plane will land immediately after losing contact, which is more dangerous in complex areas and is not recommended. In summary, we recommend setting the first level battery protection at 30% to trigger an action alarm, setting the second level battery protection at 20% to trigger an action landing. The lost contact protection action is set to hover.